Hello everyone, Jeff with the Green Review. Today we're talking about epiphytes. An epiphyte is an organism that grows on the surface of a plant for physical support. The term epiphyte derives from the Greek epi meaning upon and phyton meaning plant. So an epiphytic plant is something that grows on other plants. Now they're sometimes called air plants because a lot of them don't have any contact and roots in the soil. But there are aquatic epiphytes. And so there's a bunch of different organisms from different kinds of algae and sponges and clams and many other kinds that will grow on other aquatic organisms, some of the algae and some of the other aquatic plants. So there are terrestrial and aquatic epiphytes. But by definition, the terrestrial epiphytes are not connected to the soil, even though occasionally there will be some contact. They must get their nutrients and water from other sources. So the nutrients come from decay of organic matter that gets trapped in around the roots of the plant or in the cup of the plant, as in some of the bromeliads. The water comes from fog, dew, rain, and mist. And some of the minerals that are in rainwater will help feed some of these plants as well. Now, epiphytes differ from parasites in that they grow on plants for the physical support, but they don't necessarily affect the plant they're growing on in a negative way. Now, a plant covered in epiphytes may get less rainwater, as a lot of it is trapped by the mosses and the different epiphytes that are growing there. But they also might need less water because they'll be cooler and more humid as those epiphytes release the water. So it's a little bit of a balance there. Now, epiphytes attach to their hosts on a variety of methods, mostly by a root system that doesn't necessarily get water. The root system may just be for attachment and not be something that pulls water out of the air or off the rainwater that's running over it. Now, as they're growing into the canopy of the plants, they have the advantage of having more light, not necessarily full direct sunlight, but at least brighter light than the forest floor, and they'll have fewer herbivores, chewing on them. Epiphytes growing in the temperate zones that get cold winters are mostly algae, lichens, liverworts, and mosses. In the tropics, epiphytes are often bromeliads, cacti, ferns, and orchids. About 90% of the terrestrial epiphyte species are flowering plants. That's a good 25 to 30,000 species of plants. About 10% are ferns, so about 2,800, 3,000 varieties of ferns. About a third of all ferns are epiphytes. And then there are a few hundred species of epiphytic mosses and lichens. Now you might see grass or some kind of a tree growing in another tree, but those are just temporary situations where the grass seed or the tree seed has sprouted in the branches of a tree, and so it's not going to last very long. Now, some epiphytes spend their whole life cycle without ever contacting the soil, and some will actually start rooting in the ground first and then growing up onto a tree trunk to get up in the canopy, and then the bottom portion of the plant may die. And some, whether they started that way or started at the top, may send out roots that will hang down and eventually contact the soil. Like this vanilla orchid here will start in the ground and then grow up onto the trunk and into the branches of a tree, and then the ground portion often dies off, and so you just have the orchid vine growing through the vanilla orchid vine growing up through the plant without any contact with the ground. Now, epiphytes, a lot of them will make good houseplants because of their minimal requirements for water and nutrients. And so we have all these plants here on this table are epiphytes. So we have orchids like the Phalaenopsis orchid that you can get at the greenhouse or the big box stores. We have other orchids here. We have Vanda orchids. We have Dendrobiums, Cattleyas here and over here. Miniature Phalaenopsis over here. We have another flowering plant called an anthurium. Some of these are ground-dwelling plants, and some of them are epiphytic. Tillandsias, which a lot of people know as air plants, that we have a wide variety of those. We have some in wooden baskets. We have some in picture frame. A lot of people will recognize the Ionantha varieties of tillandsias that you'll a lot of times find them growing in a seashell hanging down or on some other little glass bowl or something like that. There's a wide variety of those. Now I do like putting some of these tillandsias on other objects. Like this is an amethyst crystal. This one is a black Mexican beach pebble. This tillandsia tectorum is growing on a candelabra stick. Then there's others here that are growing on different things. So there's one here on a birch round log. So these make great decorations in the house. They can be left in a sunny window and until a company's coming, and then they can be put on a coffee table and arranged. So there's a lot of ways that the tillandsias can be used. We also have a pitcher plant here that's a tropical pitcher plant that is a climbing vine that grows in trees. We have bromeliads. A lot of bromeliads grow in the ground, like pineapples, but there's also quite a few others that grow in the ground and can be planted in the landscape. But some of them, like this Neoregula, a epiphyte. What other ones am I missing here? Moss. I have a whole bunch of sheet moss here. Oh, the Christmas cactus. It's Christmas cactus, Thanksgiving cactus, Easter cactus, and a wide variety of other night blooming cactuses bloom in and grow in trees. And ferns. We have a rabbit's foot fern piece here, and we have some of these staghorn ferns on a wooden plaque over here. So we have a wide variety of plants that can be grown in houses. Now some of them will be growing in pots, like a lot of the orchids or some of the bromeliads. The tillandsias can be grown, like I said, in baskets and all kinds of other things. A lot of the orchids will be growing on little wooden plaques that can just be hung up. Now this dendrobium variety goes dormant in winter, loses its leaves, and so it's starting to sprout back out again. It sends out all these little roots that'll climb on and cling to the tree trunk, and so that you'll see these plants planted on wooden plaques with some fish line tied around them. Now I prefer to use thread or garden twine, the jute kind of twine that's green or brown, because that twine and the thread will flex a little bit and stretch when it's wet and then shrink back when it's dry, and to hold the plants better onto something, whereas the clear fish line or clear thread is invisible and it's nice, but a lot of times it doesn't expand as the plant grows, and so then it becomes too tight, and it lasts longer, so you have less care there, but there's a trade-off there. You have to be careful putting it on the wooden plaque. The staghorn fern and these orchids are all growing with the fish line on them. And so, like I said, wide variety of houseplants growing as epiphytes can be used in the house, and that can be put in hanging baskets, pots, and in a variety of other mounting methods to make them beautiful in your house. So if you have a chance to grow epiphytes, I think you should give them a try. And this is Jeff with a Greener View. Thanks for watching.